Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages. Great to see you tonight. A special Saturday night D program. And tonight, we've got a good one. We've got Old World Florida live. And we are ready for a fantastic time here tonight. Got the pink background in honor of Old World Florida. That's kind of one of the colors that he uses. Uh, Really interesting story. One of my dearest friends in the world kept telling me, hey, you got to check out this Old World Florida guy. And you know, one of my weaknesses is that I'm working so hard to produce my own content most of the time that I don't have time to watch anybody else. But finally, about a week ago, I watched a couple of his shows and I was blown away. And I really didn't think he'd come on, but I figured, what the heck? We'll throw out the invitation, and boom, here he is. So a big shout out to Mike for convincing me to do that. And of course, we're brought to you as always by NanoSoma. Gets everything out of you that's not supposed to be in you. And Focus Life Force Energy. They send you a high consciousness environment to your home and to your phone. And it's also, in my opinion, the greatest EMF inhibitor out there. Hello to Kylie over at Rockfin. And over on the other side of the house, so it doesn't look like Fulkin wants to work tonight. I think I might have forgotten to fix it. My bad. Let's say hello to Mike Wrench. Let's say hello to Dead Wolf, Deleted. Joyce is with us. Emperor Rex, Jan, Will Bauer, Brian, Estelle, Smoochie, Super Galactic, JT. Lots of people still filing in. Happy to see all of you. So we are going to we're going to jump right into this. We're going to go live with Dr. Longo, coming to us live from the, should I say the name of the bookstore, the Dancing Elephant Bookstore?
Sure, you just did.
I just did. It's great to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing real good, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
You bet. You come highly recommended. My best friend in the world, well, one of my best friends is like, you got to check this guy out. I finally did. And all I can say is, wow, man, your stuff is amazing. I thought I was deep. You go even deeper. So it's a real privilege and honor to have you on.
Oh, I don't know about that, man. I think I've got a ways to go, but
we all do. And by the way, I was born in Clearwater, Florida, graduated from Seminole High School. So was in Florida for most of my life over on the other coast. And strange thing, Dr. Longo, I was kind of thinking I'd never go back to Florida. I was kind of over Florida. My dad passed away. My mom moved to Texas. But listening to your videos, I'm reminded of what a amazing esoteric place the state of Florida is. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to go back there now a time or two at least. You're muted, doctor.
Sorry. People always sleep on Florida. I mean, any way you look at America, the truth. I mean, America got started in Florida.
Right.
That right there kind of gets swept under the rug. They really want us to have like a British Virginia, Plymouth, Roanoke. They kind of want that to be the narrative. There's a good, 100 years or so more of Spanish and French history in Florida. So the United States as we know it, the revolution with England, that was kind of America's like puberty.
Absolutely.
Our birth was really with the Spanish and French in Florida. So
absolutely. Is that a golden apple you've got in your hand?
Yeah, it's a tangerine.
Do you think that there's a possibility that the golden apples alluded to were indeed Florida oranges?
Now, I have a little fun with that one because everyone knows citrus comes from Asia. So citrus is like, it's from India or China naturally, right? Okay. So they don't grow in Florida originally. But I do believe that the biblical Garden of Eden was Florida. Now, whatever fruit was in there, I'm not sure. It probably wasn't a citrus orange because that didn't make it to Florida until the Spanish came. But we do have some fun with some of those theories, but not a whole lot of evidence that the orange was in Florida. But if we're just talking Greek mythology, they know damn well that the orange is the golden apple of their
Right.
mythology. So the Garden of Hesperides, which some people say is the inspiration for Eden, the Garden of Eden, with the paradise, right? So Garden of Hesperides, Paradies turned into paradise, but those were oranges, golden apples, and you can see the old artwork always has they're always in an orange grove. So,
And I was referring to the Heracles narrative, so it would have been golden apples in that narrative. But
yeah.
I'm really excited. I think when we talked, they said, bring your favorite, bring your best, whatever. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And I want to give you the floor, Dr. Longo, and let you run with it. And, I'll jump in every now and then if we get a great question from the chat room. But other than that, man, take it away. I'm dying to hear what you got to tell us tonight.
Well, I'm going to need some more direction than that. Give me one thing you want me to focus on, then I can kind of.
Okay, we kind of, I covered one of your shows. I think you might have watched a little bit of that. That was mainly where you talked about where I was covering you talking about Florida being the Garden of Eden, Florida being Atlantis. That was the one with the Platonic evidence and some of the evidence of the Confederacy and the Knights of the Golden Circle and Trump. So, I mean, I don't think that we got super deep into Florida being the Garden of Eden. We could go there, and maybe is that enough direction to start there and branch out?
Yeah. How about this? I'll tell you. And I saw the show you did on the Knights of the Golden Circle. It was really good. You added a lot of details on there that you didn't find from me. I noticed that, so I learned a couple things from the video you did on it. And that one was really good. I'll tell you what I've been into a little bit recently is the hidden Jewish history of Florida.
Ooh, nice.
That's always exciting and spicy and
with Mr. Levy and Mr. Benjamin and all of them.
Yeah, I saw you had some fun with that part in particular.
Absolutely. Let's go for it, man. I'm going to mute myself and just let you go because I'll just be wowing and oohing and on. So that's kind of distracting.
Okay, cool. So Florida, right? What do people kind of know it for? Old people, right? Retirees, the beaches, golf courses, you name it. Well, a big part of Florida's history, not just the last 100 years, but ever since its, so-called discovery, you've got a significant Jewish presence in Florida. And again, I don't know what everyone's definition of Jew is here, but let's just go with the general modern one, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you've got the Spanish discovered Florida, mainland America, right? Columbus, we've only recently found out he was almost certainly Jewish, right? Or at least they're
100%, I would say.
Right. Yeah. Or at least the other way you could look at that is they're trying to claim he was Jewish as if it might give them dominion over America or something like that. That might be another angle, but it seems that he was Jewish, a converso, crypto Jew, you name it, one of those. But he had a mysterious lineage. He rolls into the Caribbean. If it weren't for those pesky Bahamas, he would have smacked right into Florida. Isn't that right? Right?
It's absolutely true.
He would have gone right into Miami, the Jewish metropolis of Miami, and he would have been right at home. But he lands in the Bahamas. So right off the bat, it is too forgotten that he was half the distance to Florida. Or sorry, the distance that Columbus was when he landed in the Bahamas. He was twice the distance. Keep saying this wrong. He was from where he was in the Bahamas to Florida was half the distance from where he was to South America.
Right.
So for some reason in school, we're always taught, this all started off in the Caribbean, South America, Mexico. Well, they were pretty much bumping around the Gulf of America, Florida, the Bahamas. And this all really kind of keys in on the Gulf Stream. How the Gulf Stream was this ancient warm water highway that they kind of stumbled onto and made great use of. That was the transatlantic trade route that everyone was trying to keep hush hush, right? So I know you touched a little bit about the hidden Moorish history of Florida too.
Which is fascinating.
Right. Because the Confederacy, they have this whole like Islamic kind of aesthetic to them that the Shriners and the Masons, the Southern Masons really picked up and ran with.
Yeah.
Where does that stuff come from? The Moorish architecture all over America. That all comes from the fact that why did Columbus come over here? Well, 1492. You can pop in if you want.
Yeah, he obviously got kicked out of England, and that's why he came over. But this is so interesting to me because as a kid growing up in Tampa Bay, my dad back then, the University of Tampa had a football team, Freddie Solomon, John Matuzak, some great players. And my dad would take me to the University of Tampa football teams or games, and we'd always drive past the Henry Plant Museum with those clearly, Moorish. I don't know what are those things called? Parapets or something like that?
Minaret, something like
Minarets. And I would always ask him, Dad, what's that there for? And he'd be like, hell if I know. It looks kind of cool. So, I mean, even as a young kid, I was impressed with the fact that this is different. And it was, it's just there for anybody that's willing to observe. And maybe as a kid, you'll observe things that, an adult will just ignore.
Right. 100%. That's very cool. You got to grow up around there. It's not that much different over here in Palm Beach area. We still have a little bit of that Moorish architecture. Like the city hall over here has some of those same kind of, I don't know what you'd call them, details, little Moorish kind of details, the fringes but
I did spend about 6 months in Pompano Beach in a failed relationship, but I like Pompano Beach. I just didn't really like the relationship.
Yeah. Pompano's got a nice beach. And okay, so Columbus, why did he leave to America? He left because the temperature was rising. Okay, the pressure was increasing for Jews in Spain. For those who don't know, the Christians of Europe were in a war, 500, 700 years or so with the invading Moors, the Muslims who came in from Africa, right? You ever see the map? Africa kind of pokes the southern little tip of the Iberian Peninsula a little bit. You can cross that real easy. And there was a Muslim conquest of Western Europe. Okay? The Iberian Peninsula. The Spanish had just, they were kind of a new concept, new empire, right? The Spanish. They finally expel the Moors, the Muslims, from Spain, Portugal, for the most part, expelled 1492. That's kind of when that really wraps up. There's no more Moorish presence in Spain, at least military presence. 1492. Within weeks, they say, okay, all the Muslims are gone. Not entirely, actually, but the Moorish military presence is gone. Okay, what are we going to focus on? Or who do we owe the most money to? Whichever it was, they said, okay, the Moors are gone. Now the Jews have to go, right? Now they have to. There was murmurs, right? It hadn't officially been announced, but Columbus leaves the day that it is officially announced. The Jews will have to leave Spain. In fact, in Columbus's own journal, okay, which we should all be reading in like elementary school, okay, he says, that's how he starts off one of his journals. On the day that the Jews were expelled from Spain, I set out for the New World. That's how he starts off one of his journals.
Amazing.
So that tells you kind of everything you need to know. Two of his financiers were kind of, you could say, court Jews to the king and queen of Spain at that time. And he had, so two Jewish financiers, they go, we don't know how many Jews total, crypto Jews, conversos are on the ship. but they leave. He had an Irish navigator. So I've got another video on the hidden Irish history of America. I'm Irish. I love to talk about that stuff too.
I'm Irish as well, 95%.
Tremendous. Good stuff. That's good
Yes.
stuff right there. He had an Irish navigator. His name was Guillermo Harries, but his real name was William Harris. He was an Irishman who he had met in Galway. So we know that Columbus, I think, like Jeff said, he was spending time in the British Isles right before he gets to go to America.
Mm-hmm.
And he met an Irish navigator during that time. And he goes, oh, voila. Now they're just going to make this brave voyage across the Atlantic where no one had ever gone before, allegedly. Now, the secret part of this history, the hidden part, is that the Moors had probably been to America before. A lot of people had been to America before. The Templars certainly had a presence. Go ask the Micmac Indians. They know all about that. They've got a Templar flag to this day. And, you know, your Oak Island stuff kind of gets tied into this. And then guess what? It also ties back into the Confederate gold. Because you know what a lot of that Confederate gold was printed in? Spanish bullion.
Oh, okay. Makes
Spanish
sense.
gold that had been in Florida for 500 years, you know?
Yep.
A lot of that.
Let me ask you one thing before we get too far down the road with the Irish thing. Of course, Columbus's navigator was Irish, and this was, I get, you could argue that journey from Spain to the quote unquote New World kind of set the pattern for what would become the human slave trade. And it's my understanding that the Irish were really the first slaves. So how does the guy that's being the navigator end up having his people get nabbed and become the first slaves? Have you looked into that at all?
Yeah, I mean, what was it, Jamestown even, that they had Irish slaves that early?
Yes.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of those colonies, they had Irish slaves. So we're talking your early 1600s, you know?
Right.
And I don't think black slaves were introduced by the English till after that. So,
and the nice thing about us, Dr. Longo, is as the study that I've done, you know, it was easy to catch an Irishman, just get him drunk. And, you know, of course, that's the reason why God invented whiskey, so the Irish wouldn't take over the world. But if you get an Irishman drunk, it's so easy to get him on the boat and on the way. But evidently, we were just too much damn trouble. So they said, we got to find somebody else to enslave because these crazy Irishmen are just too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, and Thomas Sowell, he talks a lot about how the Irish slaves kind of created some of the culture for the black slaves. Like a lot of like the gang culture, all that, you know, we kind of chalk that up to, you know, black mischief, but it's really some of that they get from us, the disorderliness and the, you know, the pride and the willingness to fight to the death in the street over nothing, you know, like
exactly.
But so I think there's something to that, but Guillermo Harries, I don't know what led him on that expedition. I would gather he had been to America before in some regard. Guillermo Harries or his dad knew the way or passed down somehow. Another thing about Jamestown, or actually Roanoke, is there was 200 Turks and Moors that Francis Drake had rescued from some Caribbean island. So this whole Roanoke colony disappearing thing, a big part of the mystery is that there was 200 Turks and Moors there, right, who were probably Islamic. So what the hell's, you know, why did Francis Drake feel the need to bring them back there? But nonetheless, there's all these groups in early America that you wouldn't really suspect, right? And the Irish are especially swept under the rug. We have St. Brendan, apparently, going over to America. I forget, 500, 700-ish, around there, something like that. And then there's Maddock, Prince Maddock, who was Welsh. So, you know, they have a tradition of crossing the Atlantic, they would say. Where were we? Columbus, he leaves, he winds up not far from Florida. Okay, so that's
You know what we're missing, Dr. Longo, and I just realized it.
what?
Where the hell is Shem?
Shem?
Shem, yeah.
Do you like Shem?
I like Shem. He's a great foil for you.
You want me to bring him?
Oh, that's okay. I just noticed something's off, and that's what it is. I know where he's in that little room, right, where he says he wishes he could be all the time, but he has to go to work.
Yeah, he's in his gimp.
Sorry, I'll quit interrupting you.
He's in his gimp dungeon. This is where he is. Shem. So Columbus goes over to America, and boom, that's already one Jew in America. Okay, Christopher Columbus. CC 33, Colonna family. You know, you can have a field day with his lineage, his story, but I like to go off of what he wrote down himself. He wrote in Hebrew. He signed his name in a Hebrew manner. He told his kids to celebrate his memory with a Hebrew saying, the Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish. We're going to tie this in to the KKK too. Hopefully we get that far. Where
Absolutely. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, the thing about the KKK morphing into KFC, oh, that was just blew my mind, and it's so right on.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone talk about that side of it. The KGC gets a little bit of exposure because they were in the National Treasure series, the KGC.
Right.
With Nicolas Cage.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty good. They actually tell the story kind of cool. It's a little fictionalized. But other than that, like the fast food stuff, nobody's talking about that. Everyone knows about like your typical New World Order fast food agenda type stuff.
Yep.
But I've never seen anyone trace it back to that Confederate
That was great.
source.
And another weird connection. I went on a dive. We dove with great white sharks, and on that dive, this week-long dive, was the bald guy from the first National Treasure, kind of the villain that was in there. So I got to hang out with him, which was kind of cool.
Ed Harris?
No, I know it's not Ed Harris, but he was. If you go back and look at the first National Treasure, he was the bald guy. Was the villain? So
okay, sorry. Well, Columbus comes over, and he notices some things, some interesting things. I believe he starts noticing what he believed were Hebrew place names. So he starts noticing, you know, they call this island, I can't think of any, but even Guanahani, which I think is where he landed, he was able to link to Hebrew. So he's kind of going like full schizo in his journal, just discovering the Americas. He calls it paradise. He calls it the Garden of Eden. He says, I can't be far from the Garden of Eden. And he's a little bit delusional, you know, getting swarmed by mosquitoes and never been in a climate, you know, like this, but whatever. But still, he's analyzing all the names that the Indians are telling him. And he's saying, these are Hebrew words. You know, there's Hebrew roots in this. What the heck? So let's fast forward a little bit. You know, Columbus does his thing. He gets all the credit. But he had a guy on his second voyage named Juan Ponce de Leon.
mm-hmm.
Juan Ponce de Leon is the guy who discovered, again, so-called discovered Florida and the mainland United States. So yes, the Vikings were here a little bit before, but we're talking age of discovery. He discovered mainland United States. He was said to be on a quest for the Fountain of Youth.
Yep.
Also, Columbus noted seeing circumcised Indians. He remarked.
I've never heard that.
He remarked on something going on down there that he believed might have been circumcision. Whether that was a punishment or what, but it was noted. Well, then we have Juan Ponce de Leon. So 20 years later, 1492, now we're in 1512, 1513, Ponce de Leon finds Florida. They knew it was there. They just settled on it, you know, and not settled, but went and explored and claimed it for Spain. and then it was kind of charted territory after that. Well, let's fast forward a little more. We know that he had Jews, conversos, on his crew. In fact, every Spanish ship, all the early Spanish ships that left from Spain, they all had conversos. Why? Well, who was most willing to lay their life on the line and find a new life somewhere else? It was the Jews, who were just recently getting expelled from Spain. And they were willing to risk it. They were willing to say, hey, son, this might be a better option for you. Go over to the Americas. And yeah, so 20 years after Columbus starts sailing around the Caribbean, you've got trading posts, you've got, little markets and towns and things like that. And right away, the Jews are doing very well for themselves. They are doing the human trafficking, slave trading, right? They're right up at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
From tribe to tribe. One tribe would sell another tribe, right? So sometimes they didn't even have to catch them. And they're already a lot of times in a state of warfare when they roll up. So they get involved in the slave trading. They get involved in, of course, the spices and the general, valuable goods of the day. But then we have the Narvaez expedition, 1528 or so. Again, lots of conversos on that expedition too. Then you have the De Soto expedition, lots of conversos there. So now we're at 1539. The first city in Florida is 1565 or so.
Yep.
That's St. Augustine.
Oldest city in North America, right, Dr. Longo?
Yep, continuously inhabited, 100%. They nickname it Ancient City. Ancient City. 500 years is old, but it's not ancient.
It's not.
Right? Now, I think that name might tell us a little something.
Absolutely.
Because that's kind of the last turn you make before you surf the Gulf Stream across the Atlantic.
And that was a brilliant revelation, how you showed with the Gulf Stream, take you right over into, Mount Ararat. You were talking about the Noah's Ark piece. And again, I'm taking you off track, but how much of this does Trump understand? Did he understand what Mar-a-Lago was? And it's the closest thing to the Gulf Stream on the mainland. Do you think he gets a lot of this?
I think he gets it. Now I'll be straight up. Okay.
I know you had a Trump van sign in your yard.
Yeah. I'm a Trump tard head to toe. Okay. I love Trump. I like seeing the good in him.
I do too. I like seeing the good.
We can debate whatever if you want, but I think that he is either informed about this or he's divinely guided or drawn to it naturally.
Is he a time traveler potentially?
Now we carry that book here at the bookstore. We carry both the books. Yeah, the Last President and The Adventures of Baron Trump.
I've actually read both of those, so that's not many people read them. That's cool. You got them there.
We do sell those. Yeah, I've skimmed through them. Can't say they were that interesting. But
terrible books, be frank with you.
And I think
Baron Trump, he's a Baron named Trump. It's not actually Baron Trump as his name, but it's the Baron Trump. So hey, pretty compelling either way.
I think there's something special with the Trump family. They're not perfect, but we know this whole story kind of kicks off with John G. Trump. I believe that was his name, Trump's paternal uncle, I believe. He was the man tasked with kind of collecting all of Tesla's materials.
Right.
After Tesla passed away. And one of his workspaces had already burnt down, and they were worried that the other one would burn down or fall into the wrong hands. And a lot of people pass this around in QAnon circles, and but it's real. Forget about all the other QAnon stuff. This is real.
Absolutely. Okay. And don't you talk about giants in Florida?
Yes.
And with giants in Florida, Baron Trump is on his way to being a giant. That's a tall kid. So Yeah, my son told me to ask me about giants. So I had to throw it out there. And my son's 41 or 2 years old. So,
How old are you?
dude, I just turned 61 years old, which is not old if you're a tree, brother.
Well, you look great, man. You
Well,
look,
thanks. I guess it's clean living or something like that.
yeah, I would have thought your son was my age or something. But
How old are you?
I'm 28. I just turned 28.
I got to tell you, my wife, I've been talking about you for a couple of weeks. She's heard our buddy Mike talk about you. And when she saw your picture, she's like, that can't be him. How can a guy that young have so much knowledge? So it's a very nice compliment from my wife.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I am just, I don't know, not that smart. Doing my best, but if
You're
anyone
doing a
ever,
hell of a job.
if anyone ever pats me on the back or says that I'm doing good for my age, which I'll accept as a compliment, okay? I always point to a couple things. Number one, I've never been drunk in my life.
Wow.
I've never drank. My brother, who's a lot smarter than me and a year younger, he had the benefit of learning from my mistakes and whatever, building on me, but he's smarter than me. Also, never been drunk. Never drink.
That's great.
We don't drink. We're also vegetarians.
No kidding.
No flesh, no corpse. I think that's the purest way. And I think that does help. If you're not doing it from an emotional stance, if you're doing it from an emotional place, it's kind of worthless. But
okay, I got to throw this out here. I tried when I was living in Florida the last 2 years.
Yeah.
1 year I tried vegan. I was vegan for a whole year. Didn't work. I tried vegetarian for a whole year because, I'm sitting there petting my cat. I'm like, why do you pet this one and you kill all the other ones and eat them, right? So I was coming at it from a moral point of view. But Dr. Longo, I never felt optimized. So then I go keto. All I eat is meat. I've lost 78 pounds in the best shape of my whole life. So I'm a spiritual vegan, but I'm a actual keto eater. So I hear you. I really do. I hear you, and I wish I could, but it just doesn't work for me physiologically.
well, I think people. Well, you look, you look fit. You look good. You're keep doing what you're doing, I guess. But I'll say that people who try it out and struggle. I don't want to spook anyone here, but it's not the vegetarian diet that I think should get the blame. I think that it's parasites that should get the blame.
Yeah, could well be.
Because I always hear when people switch to vegetarianism, they say they don't feel full, or they lost weight or whatever. It's parasites. Lifelong vegetarians grow up huge, big, and strong. People who get off flesh, if you don't get rid of your parasites, and they only crave flesh, okay, that's their number one food source, okay, decaying flesh. You don't get parasites from fresh fruit or vegetables. I'm sure there's some, but the ones that we're all worried about come from flesh. Interesting. And I believe that if you haven't gotten rid of your parasites or done an anti-parasite protocol, that they will still be craving your previous diet, if that makes sense.
Interesting. I may have to revisit this. That's good advice.
And I'd like to throw out some names too. I have a friend named Rustin who was raised till he was 17 or 18, full vegetarian. Okay. He's taller than me. He's 6'4", huge guy, big guy, and he plays about 50 instruments. He's a musical savant. He's a genius.
Wow.
One of the best musicians I've ever seen. He's huge, big, strong, burly guy. I've got another friend, Josh, same thing, lifelong vegetarian. That's the family that got me into all this. So I paid attention. The family who set me off on this whole journey when I was about 15, they were a vegetarian family. They never strayed from the truth. I would trust them with anything, and I'm very indebted to them. Also, do you like MMA, like UFC?
Yes.
Do you like Jake Shields?
I don't really. I got into it because I was dating that young girl that liked it, so I got
Yeah.
into it when it was Ronda Rousey and McGregor. So I kind of got out of it when I got out of her, so to speak. So I'm not really into it that much anymore.
Well, you'll notice McGregor was on his hot streak until he got beat by Nate Diaz.
That's right, a vegetarian.
Nate Diaz is a vegetarian. Now he kind of looks like a vegetarian, so I don't like, he's kind of got that like skinny
Yeah.
build. But Jake Shields is a lifelong. See, Nate's not a lifelong vegetarian. Jake Shields is a lifelong vegetarian. He's got biceps and forearms,
He does.
thick, big guy, strong guy, lifelong vegetarian. I mean, I've always said people look like their lifestyle. The diet isn't going to determine what you look like. If you're working out, you're going to look good. I look like someone who spends 10 hours a day on a computer. No matter what I eat, I would look like this. But I think it's important for spiritual, not to sound like a fag, but I think it's important for spiritual purposes that you are blood free, right? So it's not an emotional.
It's a good argument. It's a good argument.
I think and let's be real. Are we the community who calls people out for adrenochrome?
Yeah.
Adrenochrome's not a human thing, guys. That's a mammal thing. Hate to break it to everybody, but every single animal you've ever eaten had an adrenochrome dump right before that flesh was harvested. So adrenaline is released and oxidized by every mammal. So adrenochrome is a flesh diet. If I want to go harsh on people, a flesh diet is nothing more than an adrenochrome addiction. We don't need to go for the Bill Gates Agenda 2040 vegan diet. Here's my thing, okay?
Right.
Carnivores over here. You got vegans over here, emotional vegans. They're both wrong. I think it's vegetarianism is the way. That's the Plato diet. Let's just list some of the best of the best off here. Okay, and you tell me this isn't the greatest list of geniuses we've ever heard. Plato, Socrates, Hippocrates, Pythagoras. What did they call vegetarians before we called them vegetarian? Pythagoreans.
Genius. Oh, Pythagoreans. That's
Pythagoreans or Platonists.
Mm-hmm.
So Plato, okay, we got to skip Aristotle because he was kind of a fuck boy. He kind of screwed the whole thing up. That's where we get materialism. Well, he was a flesh eater. He renounced his vegetarianism when Plato booted him from the mystery school for being a materialist. He started eating flesh. He started critiquing all of Plato's ideas like a spoiled kid.
Yep.
Then we get the Neoplatonists, also roughly synonymous with vegetarianism, to be a Neoplatonist, Plotinus, Porphyry, Iamblichus. Some of them were vegetarian. Not all of them were vegetarian, but most of them were vegetarian, the serious ones. Then we get to Nietzsche.
Yes.
Nietzsche was a vegetarian.
I love Nietzsche.
Now, Wagner made fun of him for being vegetarian. And then Wagner ended up a vegetarian. And of course, we have Adolf Hitler being a vegetarian. Himmler was a vegetarian. Rudolf Hess. Steiner was you like Steiner?
I do.
Good. That's good stuff too.
It is.
Steiner,
not all of it, but Steiner's pretty good overall.
And what did he say? Any potential nutrients that a vegetarian any physical nutrients that a vegetarian might be missing out on, he more than makes up for in spiritual nutrients.
Interesting.
And I believe that. But
all right, I've been called out right here on my own show by Dr. Longo. But it's all legit, and it's stuff that I have to take into consideration. I appreciate it. I really do.
It's for everyone. I have plenty of meat-eating friends. It's okay. I don't care. But
interestingly enough, about 12 years ago now, and it might have been when I was vegetarian, all of a sudden I was allergic to alcohol. I thought I was just allergic to beer, so I had a martini, same thing. So for the last 12, 13 years, I haven't drank a drop either. So I don't know, maybe it was the vegetarianism that kind of kicked into that.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, I've always said, I'll take a flesh eater over a drinker any day of the week.
Right.
You know what I mean? The flesh eater can be. I'm not going to say vegetarians are better people. They're not. I'm not saying vegetarians are somehow better people. Far from it. Okay. There's more room for hypocrisy, especially when you kind of take on a lifestyle like that too.
Mm-hmm.
But with the drinkers, all drinkers are the same. Everyone who picks up that bottle turns into the same person. Okay?
Yeah.
Their individuality is erased. Not to mention the families it destroys. Do I like flesh? No. Does it destroy families? Not really.
Not really.
Maybe prostate cancer or something, but alcohol is the bane of humanity.
No doubt.
Like you said, it's what they invented to keep the Irish from ruling the world. I think it's the bane of the Atlantean lineage too. Like the Aryan tradition seems to have been alcohol. They had a tolerance for alcohol, whereas the Atlantean lineages, like Native Americans, Irish, they have little to no. They suffer from alcohol tremendously, right?
Absolutely.
Native Americans.
Smoochie says she's drunk right now. For those that are wondering.
Yeah. Well, let's. Who else? Oh, Tesla, Da Vinci, vegetarians. Lawrence of Arabia. We can name soldiers too. We can name war heroes. Lawrence of Arabia was a vegetarian.
I believe Rommel was a vegetarian.
You're probably right. I mean, most of the German leadership was vegetarian around World War II.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to zip it. Sorry about that. I got us off on a 10-minute tangent on vegetarianism.
That's all right. But let's just talk about St. Augustine. The first governor of St. Augustine, I believe, was a crypto Jew, a converso. Yep. And then some of the missions, Catholic missions. You'd think these are like the Christians of all Christians, right? Like who's manning the Catholic missions in the frontier of the world,
Yeah.
A bunch of crypto Jews.
Yeah.
Now, where the story gets interesting is that once these guys start kind of settling down in Florida, they start noticing things with the Native Americans. Hebrew traditions, Hebrew words, circumcision. They were noticing circumcision in more and more of some of the people they came across.
Amazing.
I'm single right now, by the way.
Yeah, Melanie was wondering. Melanie's a California girl, but she might make the trip, Dr. Longo. I'm just saying. And Melanie, that would be a good time. I'm just saying that would be a good time. I'm very well spoken for, but Melanie, I've known her for a long time, and yeah, she would be a fun girl to hang out with. I'm guaranteeing. How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay, well, you're taller than Melanie. She's a tall girl, so at any rate, we got to cover the important stuff.
So they start noticing things about the Indians. The Indians seem very Jewish. They didn't know if that was just a contrast with the Christianity, that like anyone who wasn't Christian kind of had some stuff in common. But they start studying this link, and a lot of them are kind of writing it down. So much so that at one of these missions in Florida, they called it Nombre de Dios, the name of God. Because for the Jews, they didn't like to say the name of God.
Right, still don't.
All the other Catholic missions were named after saints. This one was just Nombre de Dios. And they used that name a couple other times around the Americas. But in Florida, this was with the Timucua tribe of Indians. So at this mission, today, they found the burials of a couple dozen Indians and Spaniards, and the monks and stuff. They can see where they all were buried. The Indians, they realized, were buried like Jews.
Wow.
The Spanish Catholics thought that they were so convinced that these Indians were Jewish or Hebrew leaning, Hebrew influence, that they buried them in the fashion of Israelites, the traditional Jewish burial with your feet to the east, I believe, your feet to Jerusalem. Whereas the Catholics usually had their feet pointed north or to the altar of the church.
Right.
And the logic behind that is when you're raised from the dead, right? You know, when the kingdom of heaven comes or whatever, you're raised from the dead and your feet are pointing where you're going to rise. You know, like, okay, I'm dead and I'm rising and I'm already heading towards Jerusalem, right? So they buried these Indians like that, and they never knew why until some rabbis started digging, modern day rabbis started digging around in St. Augustine history and noticed this stuff. So that's one of St. Augustine's greatest mysteries, is why are they buried like that?
Interesting.
And it has to do with this hidden Hebrew history of Florida. So we've got early Spanish Catholics or Jews pretending to be Spanish Catholic. And then you've got some of the Indians who have their own Hebrew connections. What the hell is going on with this? Well, now let's kind of skip over a little bit. There's a guy named Ed Kritzler who wrote a book called Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean.
Is that where they get the movie from?
Kind of. And the Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean is the story of some of America's first rabbis.
No way.
Yes, who were...
Because didn't you say the other day that when they were getting kicked out of Europe, they were just hanging out in the Caribbean stealing shit and breaking stuff?
Pretty much. And they were pirates, you know? So the Templars kind of were forced into piracy, but the Jews were too. And, well, you know, some people say the Templars are Jewish, but that's a whole nother conversation. But the Jews are behind the piracy in the Caribbean early on. And not only that, they're actually on better terms with some of the Indians than the Catholics are, right? For whatever reason, they get along with the Indians. You know, tribal way of life, a lot of the laws and the customs they had in common. So what happens is a lot of those Jews who are pirates reinvent themselves as American Indians. You know, hey, why are we going to keep bouncing from island to island, boat to boat, you know, cannons getting fired at us? We can just kind of settle down, look at all these beautiful women. You know, we have no good looking women, right? we came just the men in the ship usually. The Indians have women. They have food. They have corn. They have, you know, a nice way of life. And the Jews realized we can still be on top of the trade routes, even if we reinvent ourselves as American Indians.
And so, by the way, Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp, American Indian heritage.
He plays an American Indian once or twice in different movies too. The
Lone Ranger, I think he was Tonto.
Yes. Yeah, and I've got a big video on the hidden Jewish history of America, and a big part of that is the prevalence of Jews and Italians Sicilians specifically, playing Native Americans in Hollywood.
Isn't that interesting? I have a blonde Sicilian wife, but she couldn't have got the part unless she dyed her hair. But, you know.
Some of America's most famous Native American depictions were Jewish people.
Isn't that amazing?
Were Jewish people. Daniel, here, I'll pull up the list.
Where's Shem when you need him?
For real.
Hey, Shem, pull this up for me. And he's just, bam, he's on the spot, man. I need a Shem around here.
I was just going to say, you don't have a Shem?
I don't. I'm trying to get my wife to play that part, but she's too busy herself. So,
you want to know something funny? Shem's not his real name.
Well, I can imagine.
He pretends to be Jewish so that we can say whatever we want on YouTube.
I figured it was Hashem, so.
Because that's, Robert Sepper?
Yeah.
That's how he gets around everything, is he's secretly Jewish. So
right.
He's Jewish, so he can say whatever he wants about the Aryans and
interesting.
So Shem pretends to be Jewish so that he can kind of say whatever he wants on.
Okay. It
So
works.
In 1950, Jewish American actor Jeff Chandler portrayed the legendary Apache chief Cochise. Cochise, however you say it,
Oh,
Cochise,
geez. Yeah.
in Broken Arrow. His birth name was Ivor Grossel. The Yiddish-speaking Burt Lancaster played the role of an American Indian in both 1951 and 1954. Canadian actor Jay Silverheels, who played the role of Tonto in The Lone Ranger,
Yep.
everyone knows that one, from 1956 onward, was both Iroquois and Jewish.
Interesting.
His birth name was Harold John Smith. 1963, Jewish American actor Eddie Ames played the role of Chief Bromden in The One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest on
Oh,
Broadway.
yeah.
In 1967, Ames portrayed Chief Mingo in Daniel Boone. His name was Edmund Dantes Urich.
No way.
1970, Jewish American actor Dustin Hoffman. This one's kind of a joke, but Dustin Hoffman played the role of a boy raised by Native Americans in Little Big Man. Mel Brooks played a Yiddish-speaking Indian chief in Blazing Saddles, which was actually a parody of the American Israelite theory. So
It was. That's great. It was.
Yeah. And then 2009, there was a documentary by Cree filmmaker Neil Diamond, bearing the same name as the famous Jewish singer, entitled Real Engine, which addressed Hollywood's practice of casting Jews as Native Americans. So very, very, deep lore to this like Jewish Native American connection. And guys, what's Mormonism?
Yeah.
Mormonism is just a radical, kind of Christian sect that believes their main point of, people say, oh, multiple wives, everyone gets their own planet when in the afterlife. Forget that stuff for now, okay? The core teachings of Mormonism, what's their biggest difference? What earned them the most ridicule? The fact that they think Israelites traveled to America in ancient times. That's what got them chased around the desert. That's what got them warred upon, because they were opening a can of worms that would kind of subvert the established Jewish history of America, right? Now, also, this kind of the whole Israelite thing, it's a big hot potato. But the Mormons, their angle, for anyone who doesn't know, Mormons believe that there was at least three migrations of Israelites from Jerusalem, from the Middle East, to America. They believe that one of these was, I don't know the timelines on this, but it's roughly like 500 BC and then 500 AD. I think was two of these big stories. Again, I'm not Mormon. I don't know the whole story.
Nephi and Lehi and
yeah. So Lehi shows up and he's got Nephi and Lamech.
Yep.
Lamech, Laman. So whatever, but there's three groups. They are Israelites. They come to America and they start mixing with the Native Americans. So if you're thinking about why is Columbus discovering Jewish or Hebrew names? Why is he seeing things like circumcision? All these things like that. Well, it's probably because some ancient Israelites hopped on a boat and came to America. And the only people willing to discuss that is the Mormons.
Yeah.
And for some reason, America waged war on the Mormons. Now, they've done some wacky stuff. They're not perfect, okay?
Yeah.
But the way we treated them, it's embarrassing for America, okay? It's actually kind of how we treated the Seminole Indians in Florida. And you'll notice how the timelines kind of overlap on that. We're talking early to mid 1800s. The Mormon Wars were going on largely at the same time as the Seminole Wars.
Interesting.
And
See, folks, this is the stuff you only get from Old World America. So make sure you go over there and subscribe.
we've got
Old World Florida. My bad. I was reading Smoochie's comment. Old World Florida.
That's okay. Synonymous. So why is Columbus seeing Jewish links in America? And then what else is there? Let's talk about James Adair. Okay, there's a guy named James Adair who wrote a book called The History of the American Indians. I think that's the title. And this is like 1775. He was actually friends with a lot of the founding fathers. And James Robert Adair, he spent 30 years living alongside the Indians of the American Southeast. So that's the Chickasaw, Choctaw, Cherokee, Creek, and what would become the Seminole. And these are kind of like your 5 civilized tribes too, that would go on to play a big role in the Confederate alliances, which also who brokered peace between the 5 civilized tribes. Do you know this one?
I don't.
What's his name? Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike.
Albert Pike. Yep.
Albert Pike.
He would lead teams of Native American Indians against the North.
Yeah.
As the Confederate general.
And he brokered peace. He's the one who got the 5 civilized tribes to play ball with the Confederacy.
It's almost surprising that we lost that war with everything we had going on, but that's another story.
Well, see, but that's why I like the hidden Jewish history of this. Is it kind of brings into question who was we?
Exactly.
Who's the we? Like, was it the South sticking up for themselves? Or, no, I know this is like beating a dead horse. It's like everyone's favorite punching bag right now. But was it the Jews just getting both sides to fight each other? Lincoln, by the way.
If you follow the money, Dr. Longo, that's a compelling argument.
Right. Lincoln was part Jewish.
Absolutely. Springsteen, I believe, was his real name.
He was part Native American and part Jewish.
Wow.
You see how we're kind of coming like full circle?
Wow.
They say he was Melungeon sometimes. They say he was part black, whatever. He was a mutt. But he was a mutt. Part Jewish and part Native American.
Bisexual, gay?
I don't know. I haven't looked into that. But he did acknowledge giants in America.
Yep.
And I'll give him that. So he knew giants were real. So there's this guy, James Robert Adair. He's writing this book about American Indians. He wasn't going to write it. He spent 30 years with the tribes of the Southeast United States. He went to war alongside them. He married a Chickasaw woman. He started off trading, but eventually he got brought into their culture, into their society. He just started living with them. Total Last of the Mohicans type of story. He just went full wild for 30 years. By 1775, some of the founding fathers who know this guy, they know he's like a Daniel Boone type character. He's famous. Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone type hero. This is the guy. Oh, he knows everything about the Native Americans. He's not afraid of them. Everyone was afraid of them, and that kind of skewed their reports of Native American culture. And
absolutely,
this guy served alongside them in wars. So he's fighting. They kind of promoted him to a war captain. So, they respected this guy, this white guy. He, James Robert Adair, was an Scotch-Irish crypto Jew. There's a lot of those in Scotland. Not many in Ireland. Ireland is the most anti-Semitic country in the world. Scotland is the least. What are the odds of that? And you'll notice Scotland's flag is kind of the same colors a little bit.
Yeah, it is. And isn't it kind of like, isn't it an X like the old Confederate flag?
It is, and the Florida flag today.
Yeah, how about
I think
that? It all kind of comes around when you start
yeah,
looking between the lines.
the Cross of St. Andrew, I think it's called.
Mhm.
Um, well, James Robert Adair, he's Scotch Irish, and he is part Jewish secretly,
Yep.
but not to where he's promoting it or living it, but he knows enough to pick up on it when he sees it in the native
Mm,
culture. So this guy, 30 years with the Native Americans. Okay. Some other rabbis and stuff had written books about the Native Americans potentially being Jewish, but it was at this point where everyone started to pay attention. And he largely influenced what the Mormons would turn into their kind of mythology, American mythology. Um, James Robert Adair wrote History of the American Indians. It's a pretty big book, hundreds of pages. I don't know, 500 or so. It's definitely over 300 pages. It looks like. I've never held a hard copy, only on the internet, but it's a pretty big book. Okay. And it was the concise, full, all the details that nobody had before. He was laying it all out for everyone to learn. Okay. Their way of life, their culture, their diet, everything. How they got married, how they go to the bathroom, how, everything. He writes this book. And again, some of the founding fathers had to pressure him to write it. He was reluctant. He's like, I don't care. He wasn't an author. He was just living his life. They had to help him. I think he might have had to dictate it. I don't know how good he could read or write, but they got this story out. History of the American Indians, 1775. It's out. Okay. Half that book, half, I think the first half, was dedicated to proving that Native Americans, all of them, not like some of them, he believed all of them, descended from Israelites,
really?
that they were Hebrew. And this was the authority of the day. The number one authority on their way of life. He lived with them for 30 years, fought in their wars, married a Chickasaw woman, and this is his opinion.
Are you convinced of that fact?
I'm very convinced of that fact. And
Interesting.
even if you just look at how they divided up the races of the world in the 1700s, they were going with kind of the Noahide kind of diffusion, where Africa is the Hamitic race, Europe is the Japhetic race, and all of East Asia, all of Asia, the Middle East, the Levant, and East is the line of Shem. So Noah had 3 sons. You were a preacher, right?
Yes.
Is that right? So
Yep.
you must know the Bible pretty well. Noah had his 3 sons, and the way that a lot of the anthropologists were interpreting this was that those 3 sons were the forefathers, the progenitors of the 3 major races of the planet.
Yep.
So you had Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Shem is where we get Semite. Shem, the
Yep.
line of Shem, right? So Hebrew goes back to Abraham. It's actually the same word. Abra, Hebra, Ebra, right?
Yep.
Hebrew. Israel, fuck, I forget who, but when we say who was I just talking about? I forgot.
Noah, Shem.
Okay, yes, thank you. So his 3 sons, they believed, were the progenitors of the 3 major races of
We had
humans.
the TV show My 3 Sons.
Right. So you've got Ham being the forefather of the black race. Hamitic. That's mostly Africa. So they used to make maps like this that they teach in school. It was the predominant model of racial diffusion back in the 1700s, 1800s. They used the Ham, Shem, and Japheth model. So just going off that model alone, Native Americans are Shemites, are Semites, because you have Hamites in Africa, Japhites in Europe, and then the line of Shem is everything east of the Levant. So that included everyone who crossed the Bering Strait into the Americas. So when the Americas were discovered, they largely considered Native Americans Shemitic or Semitic or Shemites. Well, then the question, so right there you have, and again, they kind of thought everyone came from Noah, so that wasn't really shocking news.
Right.
What was shocking was that it seemed they were closer to Abraham and his way of life. So animal sacrifice was prevalent among American Indians. Circumcision, like I said. You want to know some of the words that they used for God in the Southeast United States and Florida right up to this day?
I do.
In the Judeo-Christian, which I don't believe in. I don't believe in Judeo-Christian. I don't like that sandwich, okay? But regardless, they say, sorry, man, I didn't smoke enough weed before this. I'm kind of slipping. What was I talking about?
You were talking about Shem, Ham, Japheth.
The words, the name of God. Okay.
Names of God.
So the Judeo-Christian kind of interpretation is this Yahweh or Yo.
Right.
It's Yehovah. Okay. Well, in Florida, ancient Florida, they say Yo-Hey-Wah.
Are you serious?
Yes. So instead of Yo,
the thing about that is they had to have some Hebrew understanding, because I don't know if you know this, you probably do, but the word Jehovah goes back to you saying that the Jews don't like to use the name of God. So Jehovah is the tetragrammaton, which is the 4 consonants, YHWH, with the vowels of Adonai interspersed. So you get Jehovah, so you don't say the name of God. It's actually a linguistic monstrosity, but if they're using that word, it's indicative of the fact that they knew some deep Hebraic-ish.
Yeah. Also, ish, that's a word they used. What does ish mean? People in Hebrew.
It does.
And they used ish, or person. Ish, ishta, ishte, isa.
Interesting.
This all means person, man, woman. The native Floridians and the native southeastern United States natives, they use the same words. Let's just go right off the big ones. Miami. You know what Miami means? And we have multiple Miamis. We have one in Florida. We got one in Ohio. We got one in Indiana,
Oklahoma.
I think. Yeah.
Kansas has a Miami County.
Exactly. What does that mean? It's a prevalent Native American word. It meant people of the water.
No way.
People of the water. Now, for some of them, it meant downstream people, but it was always water and people. Miami.
And you know what the word Hebrew literally means? The people from the other side, and usually it's in reference to the other side of the Jordan.
When Ponce de Leon came to Florida, they named one of the first rivers they found the Jordan because it was so clean and spring-fed.
I heard from an expert that there's more freshwater springs in Florida than anywhere else in the world.
That's true.
That was you, obviously.
Totally. But that's the Fountain of Youth right there. They were looking for the highest concentration of freshwater springs in the world. I think they found it in Florida. And
Linda, who's in our chat, was a Wikiwachi mermaid back in the day.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. They could go down deep. They had all the tricks. They could drink the Coke underwater. You know, it's hard enough.
I've told this to Linda before, but I'm not ashamed to admit that some of my first sexual feelings had to do with these Wikiwachi Springs mermaids. So anyway,
they got you Wikiwachi.
They got me watching that wiki, baby. I'm telling you. If she can do that with a Coke, what else can she do? But
they did bananas too. They would eat bananas.
They did eat bananas underwater. You're ahead of me. Sorry, Dr.
Yeah.
Longo. I know you try to keep it respectful, but I can't
No,
help.
that's all right. There's good videos of all that stuff if people
Oh,
want to
and
see.
just right on time. You can see where I get it. Here's Linda. You bet I can go down deep. But
Oh my god.
she just had a reunion not too long ago too of mermaids, so
Nice.
it is nice. Have you been there? Have you been to Wikiwachi?
I have, yeah. I haven't seen a mermaid
Amazing.
show in person, but
Do they still do them?
I
I think
think
they
they do.
probably. Yeah.
I think they do.
Sorry, again, rabbit trail.
It's all okay. It's all fair game. Well, the Native Americans, they were using words like yo, hey, wah. So, just a little bit off, right? Yehovah, yo, hey, wah. And V and W, those swap
A
in
lot of
many
people say it's
languages.
Yohei Vahe, so they weren't that far off.
Exactly, you're right. And guess what? They also left off their fourth syllable because it was too sacred to complete
Too sacred.
a name. And when they were mainly talking around white people, they would say Jave. They'd condense it even more. They'd take off another syllable, just like they do with Yahweh.
Yeah,
Yahweh is, yes, it's the same four letters, but you're taking a syllable off
absolutely.
the three-syllable version. So they would say Jave and Yohewa, and they would also chant Mayam. Now, one of the biggest Hebrew kind of folk songs is Mayam. Mayam. And what does Mayam mean? It means a couple things, but it means water.
Yeah,
So Mayam in Native American, like I just said, Miami means people of the water or big water or the downstream people. Always water with people. What does Miami mean in Hebrew? The same thing.
amazing.
Mayam is how you say water in Hebrew. And me means person or who or them. But me is something you attach to a Hebrew word to kind of indicate identity or a person.
Interesting.
I don't speak Hebrew, but everyone can go check me on that. Miami, Jewish metropolis, right?
Yep.
Second highest. South Florida is the second highest concentration of Jews in the world outside of Israel. Why is it? Is it just the good weather? I make a joke in my Hidden Jewish History of Florida in Ancient America video. I was a valet for like 4 years, parking cars, Boca Raton
Oh boy.
and Palm Beach Island. Okay, I've parked thousands of Jewish people's cars. The weather is like their number one complaint. Okay, it's not the weather that brought them here. It's something else, right? It's good weather. Yes, I'm only teasing, but something else brings them here. And
Well, the New Jerusalem, right?
exactly. And we're skipping it all over the place, which is fine. But this story eventually ends up with Disney World, believe it or not. Did you know that Disney World ended up being built on land that was once part of that Levy family land?
I know that because I watched your video about it.
Cool. So Disney, his land started off as New Jerusalem, owned by the Levy family, who was some of America's first. They were the son, David Levy, David Levy Yulee. His dad was Moses Levy. David Levy was Florida's first senator, and he was America's first Jewish senator, tied with Judah P. Benjamin.
Right.
So, or at least a cabinet member. I don't know what Judah's official role was. He kind of switched roles around. I think he was treasurer at some point, and something else at another point. But he's the one who backstabbed Jefferson Davis, like you said. Jefferson Davis, why were they fighting this war from Richmond? You know what I mean? Richmond's like on the front lines of this war.
Absolutely.
Right. Virginia on Virginia. It's like they're both headquartered in Virginia.
That's why we have West Virginia, because the state split over the Civil War. So, yeah, it's very odd to have your president on the front lines.
Now, why was that? It's because Judah Benjamin was in his ear like Grima Wormtongue okay, from Lord of the Rings. Oh, King, no, stay here a little longer. We can make it out. We'll be fine. We can win from here. So they're in Richmond. They're almost surrounded. And Jefferson Davis is listening to his advisors who are telling him, Jeff, listen, we can stick it out. Just stay here. We'll be fine. We got reinforcements coming. We got all the money right here. We're good. We can buy supplies from, they'll drop some off in the harbor if we need it or whatever. They don't know what they're doing. But it was all a ploy. It was all a scheme to get the Confederacy on purpose. The Confederacy had a lot more fight in them.
And just think about it. If he'd have been down in Biloxi where he was from, which would have made a much more sensible capital.
The plan was to fall back to a southern state, to keep the fight up, keep the fight up on their doorstep as long as you could, and then retreat back to, they were either going to go to Alabama, to Mobile, or somewhere in Texas. And that was
Biloxi because that was Davis's hometown.
Yeah. Judah P. Benjamin kind of pulled one over on him. He said, we're going to wait to the last second to pull out of Richmond. Last second, right? We're going to we're going to make them think that they have us. They have us. We're retreating. But then we're going to fall back to a reinforced position in the south, and we're going to kind of encircle them and hit them when they come to chase us. Well, it never got that far.
Right.
Because Jefferson's train splintered. They were slowed down on purpose. They waited way too long. The North was right on top of them. They had no chance of, making it out, kind of. You also have the potential that they were selling information, that everyone who left the Jefferson Davis escape train was folding over information right away. Judah P. Benjamin, who knows what he really wanted to happen, but the way that it's told is that he was saying, okay, Jefferson Davis, we're going to meet back up in Texas, or we're going to meet back up in Florida. But I got to go. I got to go get some more money. I got to go get some of this. And he abandoned Jefferson Davis. Jefferson Davis thought that was going to be his ride or die. He was going to be there to the last, bullet. No, he abandoned ship, and Jefferson Davis was all alone. They even say he was dressed like a woman. That was probably propaganda, but some of them were dressed like women. Judah P. Benjamin, he dressed like a woman for sure. Okay, but they always put Jefferson Davis in the dress, right? That they caught him dressed as a woman trying to hide. That's not entirely true. That's not true at all. Judah P. Benjamin was wearing a dress. Okay.
And it's almost like Judah Benjamin was planning the best way to be able to get the hell out of America with all that gold.
Yes. They did. They concocted a plan to take the Confederacy's gold, to rip the carpet out from underneath their feet. The Confederacy, like I said, they had a couple more years of fight.
Absolutely.
They could have won even if the whole KGC plan got together and was effective. But Judah P. Benjamin sold them out, and the Yulee family had a plantation in Florida. There's a Hollywood movie called Yulee's Gold.
Yes, I heard you say that.
That is a total psyop, has nothing to do with the real story. It's just there to turn people away from the real story, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
If you search Yulee's Gold, this comes up, not the story of the Confederate treasury. So
it's a brilliant plan.
And this is where the Civil War kind of went wrong. Maybe when it ended, it shouldn't have ended. It could have kept going, but the gold that was with Jefferson Davis, some people say it was only $50,000 left. That's kind of what they usually teach today. Well, we've got other people from back then who were under the impression that it was millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That they needed a train to haul this stuff out on. They couldn't even put it on horses to move fast enough. That's why they were walking at a donkey's pace, right when they ended up catching them, because they're walking at the pace that you walk with gold. You know what I mean? If you got anything else on you, you can pretty much run away. Hightail it.
But gold's very, very heavy for those that don't know about it.
So they're wading through the swamp, the woods, Jefferson Davis, the last days of the Confederacy. They've got all this gold on them. Well, most of it was on a train. We don't know what happened once they kind of got to the end of the tracks or when they got off the train. That's where most of the gold disappeared. We can probably assume that Judah P. Benjamin's men and Yulee, his men, they collected most of that gold. And we know for a fact that whatever was left of it made it to the Yulee plantation in Florida. Yulee plantation, Yulee. If anyone wants to look it up, search Yulee gold Civil War. This story's
Where is the Yulee plantation? Where was it?
I believe it's Northeast Florida.
Okay.
Like not too far from St. Augustine. Let me check that.
Gotcha. Okay. That's really irrelevant. I just wanted to know.
We're
talking to Dr. Longo from Old World, Florida. Make sure you go over there and subscribe. Not just because he's right here, but this is one of the best channels on YouTube. It's you're not going to get this information anywhere else. Go subscribe to Old World, Florida.
Yeah, thanks, man. But yeah, Yulee is near St. Augustine, like near Jacksonville area, Northeast Florida, and it's there.
Hundreds and hundreds of acres. Up there, thousands of acres.
Hmm. The gold makes it down to the Yulee plantation. Judah P. Benjamin might have been able to stop by, but he got out from another point of Florida. So he got out from the west coast of Florida. So I don't know if they linked up at some point, but Yulee's on the east coast, Judah P. Benjamin's on the west coast. We know that Judah P. Benjamin had enough gold to line head to toe his clothes with gold. He had pockets on the inside of his clothes, on the inside of his suit, that had hidden gold in hidden pockets underneath his clothing. And he was a heavy set guy to begin with, you know? And so he's bribing every single person he comes across. He's bribing, buying favors, buying, a gun or someone with a gun to protect him. And he makes it out. He gets to the Bahamas and he goes to England. He lives a real good life after that. He lives a nice, rich, privileged.
Became a barrister.
Yeah, he was pretty much like a judge in the English court system. He is, and we never really talk about him. Every picture there's ever been of him, he's smirking like this.
He is.
He's smirking like, man, did I make it out clean? Like, and he
one of the great untold stories.
Seriously. And why don't we learn about that? Well, he was a Jewish human trafficker, slave trader. If you open up the conversation to Judah P. Benjamin, you open up the conversation to the Jews being behind the slave trade in the South. Yep. The guy that we bought this bookstore from, he makes the joke that slavery was the best thing to ever happen to them, let's just say. But still, slavery is no good. Let's all be mature about it.
Absolutely.
Let's all be mature about it. It's not good. It was time for it to, the system update was due. No more need for slavery anymore.
Have you heard? I've heard this, and it's hard to track down, but it looks like the Confederacy was already well on its way to getting rid of the peculiar institution. And Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis, they say they already had it drafted to grandfather it in. No more new slaves, and the ones that were slaves are going to be all released over a certain period of time. So even the Confederacy knew that slavery, the peculiar institution, was not a good thing.
And let's be real. We've all seen the videos. We've all seen the videos of the 100-year-old slaves who are like, "Oh, I thought it was lovely. We had a great time." Like whatever.
And I mean, you think about it. Think of all the great men of the South that were raised by their black mammies.
Yeah, we're publishing a book right now about Garden of Eden being in Florida.
Yep.
It's by E. E. Calloway, who is Florida's 1936 Republican candidate
So is
for
that
governor.
out of print? Is that why you're republishing it?
It's out of print completely. It's going to take America by storm. Let's just say that.
Amazing that it's out of print, huh? Cough,
Yeah.
cough. Yeah.
And that talks about
I want
Florida.
a copy of that. Let me know. I'm going to buy one.
Cool. We'll get you one. Well, I'll come back on and pitch it or something.
You got to sign it too. Okay.
Cool. Well, this kind of, it all ties back in. There's so much to dig into, but with E. E. Calloway, he's the guy who put forth the theory that Florida is the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
And he meant it. He wasn't just speculating. He meant it. He was being dead serious. He said, if this is real, if the Garden of Eden's a real story, it could only have been here in America.
Right?
If Noah's Ark was a real story.
Yes.
It could only have, yes, it landed in Eurasia. And I think there's about 800 different Noah's Ark stories, regional, cultural, versions of the Noah's Ark story.
Epic of Gilgamesh, etc., etc.
Exactly. Yeah. Whichever one's the first, regardless. We know that they landed in Eurasia. Who says they departed from Eurasia?
Well, it was built with gopher wood. Tell us about gopher wood real quick.
Yeah, so the gopher wood only grows in Florida. Gopher. Well, here I want E. E. Calloway. Just to your point about the slaves getting freed, his family had over 100 slaves, and they freed them willingly in 1855 or 1856. So 10 years before, roughly, I don't know, 5-10 years before the Civil War really kicked off, you already had conversations, talks about turning slaves in, Southerners who were willingly turning their slaves in, saying, okay, we're done with it. Another thing people don't like to talk about, who were some of the largest slave owners in South Carolina and Florida?
Over 70%, Dr. Longo.
Well, no. Well, not just the Jews.
Okay.
Black people.
Absolutely. And by the way, a lot of the slaves, when they got set free, are like, free? Shit, we're staying.
Yeah.
Pay us, we'll stay.
Yeah, Charlie Smith is another one. Charlie Smith is the oldest American ever. It's claimed. He was 137. He was a Florida guy who ate oranges. He was a Florida orange picker for close to 100 years of his life.
Wow.
He was originally a slave from Africa, taken off the shores of Africa, tricked into getting onto a boat. They said that they had pancake trees on the boat, and they tricked him to coming on the boat to see the pancake tree. Wakes up and he's in Louisiana or something. He's a slave. He does like 20 years as a slave or something. Boom. Civil War happens. Slaves are freed. He said the same thing. I loved being a slave. I didn't have to worry about jack shit. Now I have to, carve my own life out of the war-torn South. It was ugly. And what else? Well, he was eating oranges too. Almost 100 years of his life, he was eating oranges every single day. And he lived to 137. They try and say he made it up, but his minimum verifiable age was 105. Okay?
Wow, that's old.
But this E. E. Calloway guy, he talked about Florida being the Garden of Eden. He talks about gopher wood, about how Noah's Ark was constructed from gopher wood. Now, gopher wood, people think gopher and they think of the animal, the gopher. Well, this is with an F. Yeah. Or the Hebrew equivalent of an F. Gopher. It's a transliteration into English. It's not a translation. There's no translation for gopher. It's used It's used once in the Hebrew Bible, only once. It's never used or referenced again in the Bible. And then you have it's a Hebrew word, and they don't know what it means. Every other type of wood in that area is already named in the Bible. Cypress,
cedar.
Yeah, they're already named. The shipbuilding woods are already named in the Bible. So what's gopher wood? Well, for thousands of years, they never figured out what gopher wood was. Just didn't know. Some people guessed, oh, it's a type of cypress, regional, we don't know which one. Some people said it's the same as the word cover, gopher, like a coffin, a coffer, cover, right? Some people said, well, that's it, because we know that the ark was kind of built over like a submarine a little bit. It had a roof on it, right? So waves could come over and it wouldn't sink. It was covered. It had to be covered. Didn't have a mast, right? So some people said it just means the shape, it's the covering of wood, right? Gopher wood. That's not a satisfactory answer, right? That was
Right.
never good enough. It wasn't until the Americas were discovered, 1500s, late 1400s, that they discover, they go into Florida and they stumble onto a type of wood, pretty big tree called gopher wood. Gopher.
Amazing.
Now we don't know how gopher and wood got slapped together, okay? But we do know that gopher is a Native American word. So when we say gopher, like that animal, like a gopher rodent or whatever it is, a marsupial, I don't know. It's a rodent.
A varmint. It's a varmint.
Okay. that a gopher. So now we're talking PH.
Mhm.
Gopher. That is a Native American word. It's a Native Floridian word. It's a Muskogee and
Wow.
Choctaw word. So that's the panhandle of Florida,
Mhm.
right where
It grows.
exactly. Right where it grows is where that word
Only
was
place
used.
in the world it grows.
Only place in the world that it grows wild. They've planted some in the Biltmore estate
Mhm.
in Asheville, because the billionaires maybe know a little bit of this, and that's like a little trophy tree for them.
Right.
But it only grows in this one area of the Apalachicola River Valley, the Apalachicola, Chattahoochee, Flint River basin, they call this.
The
And
true Fertile Crescent.
the true Fertile Crescent, the true Mesopotamia too, because Atlanta is up there in Georgia. Why is Atlanta a significant city? Why is it a big city? Inland cities are always interesting stories, right? Like why they choose that part. It usually has to do with rivers.
Mhm.
Well, Atlanta is a significant place because of two of these rivers, the Chattahoochee and the Flint River. When they go down and they meet towards the Gulf. That's the Garden of Eden area that Callaway is writing about in his book, where gopherwood grows. And when you follow those rivers up to where they converge, where they spring out of the ground, that's Atlanta. Atlanta is where these rivers start, and the Garden of Eden is kind of where they meet the Gulf or come close to the Gulf. And it's the same arrangement you have in the Middle East.
Yep.
You have 4 or so rivers kind of inland, and then they empty south into a gulf. It's the same thing in the Middle East. The Garden of Eden in the Middle East and the Garden of Eden in Florida are on the same exact parallel,
Yep.
the 31st parallel north. And that was largely what brought the Jews here in early Florida, was they wanted to establish a literal parallel. How
Yep.
many times do we get to use the word parallel in its exact definition, right?
Very few.
This is a parallel Eden. This is a paralleled Jerusalem, quite literally, mirroring the qualities because it's on the same parallel. So the Jews, they're doing their New Jerusalem in Florida, and they are interpreting Florida hundreds of years before Callaway comes around. They're interpreting this to be like a paradise, New Jerusalem for them. Callaway comes around. He's just going off of the geography and the plant life of the area. And he comes to a very similar conclusion. Gopher wood, the word gopher is only found in native Floridian languages and Hebrew.
Wow.
So what are the odds of that? And that's where we get a gopher tortoise. For anyone who's been to Florida,
Yep.
it's not just gopher wood. This word is used a lot. That's where you get gopher tortoise, gopher fly, gopher beetle, and there's one more, gopher something. But it's a native Floridian word, and man, I wish some of these biblical scholars would kind of wake up to this stuff, or say what you want about the Abrahamic faiths, but one of their biggest, most foolish moves is thinking that, okay, God, Old Testament, New Testament, so much activity in the Eastern continents, and what, God just forgot about America? America was just woolly mammoths and an afterthought, just
Yeah,
nothing, all that land for nothing. At least the Mormons are taking a swing at it.
they
At
are.
least the Mormons are, biting off a chunk and saying, well, hey, let's do our best to kind of explain this stuff. The Mormons believe the Garden of Eden was in America. I've met a lot of Mormons. They typically have very good energy. Okay. They're
That's
typically
true. It's a good
clean.
point.
They don't drink. They don't fuck around. They don't get arrested as much. They're very family oriented. So whatever they're passing out around there, it must be pretty good stuff, because they're doing okay. I've done shows with Mormons too. They're fun. They're pretty open minded. They don't get like sensitive. But
Now, you mentioned you wanted to get to KKK. I don't know how much time you got left, but we're pushing 2 hours now.
I usually stream for 2 hours. Is that what you want to
Typically,
do?
yes. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
But if you need a few more minutes to get through that, nobody's leaving, so it's looking good. Old
Yeah.
World, Florida, Dr. Longo.
I see someone ask him if he's flat or round.
Yeah.
What are you, flat or round?
I'll just be completely frank with you. I've looked at both of them really hard. At this point, I'm more interested in the shape the world's in than what shape it is. So let's fix things, and then we can debate that later.
Mm-hmm.
That's my non-answer, Dr. Longo.
Sure. My non-answer is that if you're in Florida, it's definitely flat.
Absolutely.
So but I tend towards flat, to be honest. I tend towards geocentric. I think that's the big psyop.
I would say that I'm geocentric as well. No doubt about that. Yeah. I'm geocentric.
My brother's, he doesn't like to say flat. I think he sides more towards round, but even he is a geocentrist. He says it has to be. Sun and moon are the exact same size. No way.
No way. The math just doesn't work.
Unless that's all geared towards a human perspective or a geocentric perspective of the universe, Whatever.
And Linda had already asked you, I think she asked earlier too, about what do you think's going to happen or what's coming, something like that. So just keep that one in mind. Ask him what he thinks going to happen in the future. Ask the mermaid. So there you go.
It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great.
I agree.
I'm white pill to the max.
There's only you and one other guy that I know that think it's going to be wonderful. I've always said the world's going to be better than it's ever been, sooner than we can even imagine.
People are just privileged, very entitled. Here's what I say. I can't think of a more narcissistic thought than the world's going to end in my lifetime.
Wow. Powerful.
I'm so special. We're so special. We're so evil. This is such evil God's never seen before. This is such,
Yeah, but there's nothing new under the sun. So
exactly. This is such, Mother Nature can never recover. We are like a bacteria on Mother Nature's ass. Okay.
Absolutely.
We are like the foam of the frothing of the tiny little bacteria, like in the waves on the ocean,
Absolutely.
Like we're not even the sand or the water or we are just like a little film, tiny little film on God's creation. I think the world's going to be great. God didn't create this world just to destroy it in vain. And again, I'm a Christian too. The world's going to, all this Pauline Christianity, this apocalyptic Christianity, nothing to do with Jesus. You can take kingdom of heaven in the Bible and replace it with enlightenment.
Ah,
Say enlightenment, right? Enlightenment is never more than at your fingertips, never more than, never farther than right next to you, right? But I don't believe in a biblical destruction. I don't believe in this simulation theory. I don't believe in any of this garbage. I think we live in the Garden of Eden. Okay. There's some things we can do better, right? But it's always a net positive. The world's going in a great direction. And yeah, I don't have really a formulated position on that, but I just have a good feeling about life. And I'll be honest, working at a bookstore like this, we have a lot of people come in here almost like we're their counselors, or like, who goes into a church when it's not in service, right? People like in need, right? People come in here kind of soul searching a lot.
interesting.
And a lot of them are dealing with this. A lot of them do deal with this end of the world dread. It's kind of, we're coming back to a lot of the Gnostic trapdoors that they kind of fell into. Simulation theory.
Yep.
This whole matrix stuff. I don't like it. Number one, it devalues life. It makes life seem secondary to something else, And I don't like Christians who act like that too. Like, that life is worth less than whatever else they're expecting. I think this is life. This is the Garden of Eden. If you're not living heaven here, there's never going to be heaven anywhere else or hell anywhere else. And I don't know. That's my whole thing. We're going in a good direction.
I'm with you 100%.
But I mean, politics, I don't like how close Trump is to Israel, and I don't want to go into another holy war in the Middle East, but
Nope.
it's been nonstop since the Crusades. So yeah.
What did you want to say about the KKK? Can we do that real quick?
Sure. And again, I don't have my thoughts gathered on where the world's going or anything like that. Sorry if that was a underwhelming response or anything, but
I thought it was right on. I appreciate hearing it.
Just good. I wish people would stop freaking out and
Absolutely
just enjoy life. But
yeah, my wife is such an intense empath that she feels all the bad that people are putting out, and I'm trying to tell her, honey, it's going to be all right.
yeah. Now, the KKK, it's kind of interesting. We're told that they were anti-Catholic, okay? But at the same time, they kind of take a lot of inspiration from Catholicism, and at least like the Templar, it's like they hate the Catholics, but they love the Templars. What's up with that? That kind of tells you it's not like an organic kind of, again, I don't know whose family was in the KKK or not. I'm sure they did a lot of good stuff too, I'm not trying to trash them or tarnish them just for the old reason that most people do. I'm interested in their history about how they came out of the KGC.
Yes.
So
and that's undeniable if you look at the evidence. I would have to say,
if they meant something good to you and your family, okay, just like the Freemasons, is a Freemason necessarily bad? No. Did they even start out as maybe a good enterprise? Sure, maybe.
I think so. You got to go back, but I think you're right.
Yeah. The KKK, that was, for some people, that was just like a drinking club. For some people, that was like they did charitable events even, But I'm talking about that, the kind of what most people think of as the KKK, right? Chasing black people, burning whatever, right? The KKK came out of the KGC.
The Knights of the Golden Circle.
The Knights of the Golden Circle. Knights of the Golden Circle was like the Gestapo. They were like the Secret Service and secret society behind like the SS leadership, whatever. They were like the Confederate Freemasons, if
Yep.
that makes sense, right? They didn't want to stay Masons, so most of them turned into Knights of the Golden Circle or members of the Order of the Lone Star.
Yep.
And they are pretty much Southern Freemasonic
What was that
Luciferian.
last name too? Sons of Liberty, right?
I'm not too. You taught me about that one. I wasn't looking into that too much.
Yeah, I think that's
Sons
what
of
they
Liberty.
morphed into, is the Sons of Liberty,
Yeah,
or at
that
least
makes.
maybe they amalgamated.
hmm Yeah, there's something in between KGC and KKK,
Right.
and that might be the Sons of Liberty.
And that
but-
might have been a regional thing as well. So
Sure. You had Order of the Lone Star was the oldest.
Mhm.
They became the Knights of the Golden Circle. And that Lone Star goes back to Albert Pike Freemasonry. This
Yep.
is what we call Luciferianism.
yeah,
It's not necessarily Satanism, but it's Luciferianism, meaning, and the Southern Democrats were really kind of big into this. Liberty.
yep,
Liberty. Liberty means Lucifer.
yes,
It's the same word. You know, Lucifer was the one who was let loose.
Yep.
He's the one, the angel that was allowed to go, leave God's kingdom and do whatever he wanted, kind of pretty much.
And our Mormon friends would tell us he gave us the truth of how we can be like God.
Yeah. Yeah, you do see a lot of this Prometheus kind of aspect to Lucifer too. Like, he's our best friend, a lot of them try and say, and we wouldn't be anywhere without him. And there is something to that. Like, we had to open Pandora's box.
Yes.
Eve had to eat the fruit for us to get all this nice technology and stuff like that. But their interpretation is that Lucifer is really the best friend of mankind, and they
Right.
go a little far with it. So they venerate the planet Venus.
Yeah.
They venerate the crescent, because the crescent, Venus is the brightest star in the sky, you could say. Sirius is a star, but Venus is a wandering star. So Venus is usually the brightest thing you'll see in the sky.
Mhm.
And it's the light bringer, like
Yep.
Lucifer, the morning star. The Bible gives you a good definition of this too. Lucifer is the morning star, identifiable with what are these stones? They give 2 stones for Lucifer.
I don't know that.
It's emerald and what's the blue one?
Sapphire, right?
Sapphire. They say sapphire. And sapphire is another way of saying lesbian sex. Did you know that?
No, but I'm for it.
Sappho
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
is what you call a woman who's into when 2 feminine women are together. All right, guys, everyone pay attention now. This is where the show really heats up.
It's what we're getting.
Okay, this will all come back to the KKK, I promise. No, but sapphire, everyone could go look that up. The KGC, they're behind Lincoln's assassination. They're behind a lot of the money. They're like the Templars of the Confederacy, right?
Yep.
They're kind of doing the banking. They're kind of doing the city planning a little bit, stuff like that. And they're having a good old time. Blah, blah, blah. Civil War ends. And, Jeff summed a lot of this up. But they end up becoming, the KGC has to go underground. They have to hide, kind of dissolves, becomes a couple different things, but they reform into the KKK.
Yep.
So let's just Germanize KGC for a second. KGC. In German, you can make that KKK. They don't really use a C, and G is very often a K or a K sound.
True.
So if you're German or one of these, something close to English but not quite English, a lot of these languages,
Mhm.
you would say KGC as K, K, K.
And at that time, Dr. Longo, probably upwards of 60% of the people in America trace their lineage back to German.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So, ka.
And yep. And we also see that the pointy hat of the KGC, all they did, they were pretty cheap. They didn't want to buy new outfits or gear. So all they did was they took white sheets and put them over the pointy helmets, and then boom, you have your pointy white hats.
Yep.
Right? Daddy was a Klansman. Daddy was a Klansman, a Southern Democrat. Those pearly white sheets and a pointy white hat, something like that. Yep. We used to sing that.
If you're wondering, if you go back and watch either Dr. Longo's video on the Gulf of America, or if you watch the one that we did covering that, the KGC had the golden helmets that had the spike on them like the World War I German helmets. And then you just throw a sheet over that, and boom, that's what it was. Never heard that anywhere other than Old World, Florida, folks.
Also, to no fault of your own, you did a great summary. I know there's so much to get in there, but I think you missed out on one of the key elements, which is like the total nail in the coffin for the KKK turning into the fast food industry. Maybe you did mention it. In Birth of a Nation, which is like the #1 KKK movie, is one of the oldest movies there is.
Yeah,
like fully produced movie. Birth of a Nation, a KKK movie that depicted the KKK favorably, right? They're like the heroes of the post-war South. In that movie, they still look like the KGC. They haven't fully switched to the KKK kind of outfit. They still have the pointy hats. They look like narwhal tusks almost.
Yeah.
But guess what else? In that movie, you have the beginning of the kind of black person eating fried chicken stereotype.
Oh.
In Birth of a Nation, there's a famous scene where they have there's all these black people in an auditorium, and they're just going to town on some fried chicken. Like they're like hooping and hollering and, you know, laughing and like causing a ruckus, and they're just macking down on fried chicken. That's where you get your KFC.
100%. Folks, this is real shit. This is awesome.
KFC, 11 herbs and seasonings.
Herbs and spices.
Herbs and spices. Guys, we all know there's like 30 ingredients in there, okay?
Yeah.
Soybean oil, yellow #5, and all this shit. What are those real 11 herbs and spices? It's the letter K. The 11th,
I did miss it.
The 11th letter of the alphabet. Okay?
And 11, 11, 11's 33. KKK, boom.
Exactly.
Wow.
Bingo. So you've the fried chicken in the #1 KKK movie set the stage for the KKK going into the fried chicken industry. And who started KFC? It was, what's his name? The Colonel.
Colonel Harlan Sanders.
Harlan Sanders, thank you. He was a 33rd degree Mason.
Yes, he was.
Or at least a 32nd. He was a... I don't
wouldn't
know
it be fun if he was a Shriner? I don't know, but wouldn't that be fun?
I don't know if he was a Shriner, but he was something else too. Knights of Malta or some shit. I don't know. One of those. But also, he was born on 999, which is pretty crazy. You flip that at 666.
Yep.
He was involved in a shootout with a Standard Oil executive too. When he owned a gas station, he was in a shootout that he never got in trouble for. He was always dressed in white. He's like the White Duke.
Yeah.
Okay? Dressed in white, literally takes on like the persona of like a Confederate colonel.
Absolutely.
You know? And the way that they fried their chicken was unique. It was like in a pressure cooker, which was unusual.
Yeah.
But he's one of the first to kind of bring in those like, you know, seed oil, the whole seed oil movement and all this stuff, right? Cheapening the food and making fried food very popular, and not even just popular. Like it was really propped up as like fast food wasn't fast food. When it was initially propped up, it was like, this is how we're going to eat from now on.
Yeah.
This is what cleanliness looks like. It was all the stainless steel stuff in the kitchen. Everyone was blown away. And they wanted this to be the new American diet.
Yep.
Now we think
You
of it
know
as
where he
fast.
said he got his chicken recipe from?
Was it a black woman?
Almighty God.
Really?
Almighty God gave him the chicken recipe.
No way.
Yep.
That's hilarious. It was a chicken swinging recipe.
It was. And
Seems
I was
like.
wondering where you're going to get to that because it's undeniable.
Mm-hmm. He was a member of at least one secret society. He was in another. I'm blanking. And then you have the founder of Wendy's, Dave Thomas. Same thing, Master Mason. Okay, and Jeff pretty much covered most of them, but it's every single one. Circle K,
White Castle. Somebody said Kmart. We missed Kmart.
Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
KK.
Hollywood actually kind of does a soft disclosure on this. There's a movie called it's called The Kingsman, Golden Circle.
Yes, it is.
So KGC, instead of Knights of the Golden Circle, it's Kingsman, the Golden Circle.
Yep.
They go to Kentucky. By the way, KFC founded in Kentucky. KGC founded in Kentucky.
Wow.
When KFC represents themselves on the world stage, like at the Olympics or at things like that, they don't represent themselves as KFC. They promote themselves as KGC. You know about this?
Don't.
When KFC goes to the Olympics, they call themselves KGC.
Are you serious?
I'm not even kidding. Because they want to be called Kentucky Grilled Chicken. Because that's when they're healthy. When they sporting events and things like that, they're always KGC.
Ain't nobody grilling chicken in Kentucky.
And they print KGC on their cups and their meals. The white and red, of course. Color scheme, that's just too easy.
I need to step out 1 second. Keep going, please.
Okay. White Castle. That's another one. Knights of the Golden Circle. They used castles instead of lodges, right? And the Kingsman movie talks about this, by the way. Yeah, it's a terrible movie, but go watch the Kingsman movie. The Golden Circle. It's in your face. They admit the Kingsman, the plot of the Kingsman is basically there's this like English secret society or Welsh secret society, Scottish, I forget, but British secret society, and they have like a sister secret society, secret service in America who are the Kingsmen. No, sorry, the Kingsmen's over here, and they call the American counterpart the Golden Circle. I don't know if that's right. I'm sorry. It's a terrible movie. I didn't pay attention. But they have another secret society, secret service in America called Knights. I forget what they're called. But in the movie, they're called something else. They have to go to Kentucky to meet them. And they are in the alcohol business. They make whiskey or bourbon or something. And then another part of that movie is that they're going after this drug cartel leader. It's a woman. She has red hair. She's clearly meant to be Wendy from the fast food chain.
Yeah.
She's Wendy with red hair. And how are we introduced to her in the movie? She's grinding humans up into hamburger meat, cooks hamburgers, and feeds them to her enemies. Human meat. There's drugs in the fast food. There's viruses in the fast food, and there's human meat in the fast food.
I would call that disclosure, Dr. Longo.
And she's Wendy, and there's a Krispy Kreme across the street.
Holy crap.
And the plot of this movie, and again, this isn't like the crux of my research. Like, Hollywood movie is not my entry point for this, but it is the nice kind of cherry on top to see that they are disclosing this, in some way.
Yeah.
And I do think, in this bookstore, like, we have a lot of things. There's black magic in here, there's nothing too crazy, but we have Aleister Crowley and ceremonial magic and all that stuff in here too. I'll be the first to tell you, there's no such thing as like non-consensual black magic.
That's right.
You have to consent to everything they do. It's actually, if you don't believe in magic, if you're not very spiritually minded, it's suggestion, it's hypnosis.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, you need to submit or welcome or invite the vampire into your house. And when they put out movie after movie after movie telling you what they're doing to us, and again, I'm always even hesitant to say they. I like to know exactly who we're talking about. But let's just say they for the sake of conversation. When they put out movies like that, that's telling you what they're doing, and you watch it, and we don't take up arms and immediately, overthrow the party responsible for that movie or for funding that or putting out that agenda, we're consenting to that treatment.
And we've been, in a sense, dumbed down, poisoned by the fast food, slave food, parasitic garbage they've been feeding us, that we all sit in have. Every time I go by a McDonald's, and my wife gets so sick of me saying this, there's always a damn line around the building. Don't they know what they're eating?
Yeah.
Anyway,
No,
sorry for that, but
no, you're right. It is modern day slavery. It is
absolutely.
It's the next best thing. And that's kind of how I end my KGC video is, what would you do if you were a slave? You're a master plantation owner. You've got hundreds, if not thousands of slaves. Now the war's over. You can't dress up and play, with your friends like you used to.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of you have to get rid of your slaves. You might even have to give up your land and your way of life. You'd be bitter, right? You'd be angry on top of what your opinions on slavery already were. What would you do? Would you just, whatever? I think that the logical step for them was to get into the food industry.
Absolutely.
Right? If you can't shackle someone, right? How can you control them?
Yep.
You can control what goes in and out of their mouth.
And you mentioned the golden arches, and of course that's an upside down 3.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could have a field day going through all the different brands that fit into this. But
absolutely.
crystals with a K.
Okay.
There's another one that's ridiculous, is Hardee's. Hardy, or is that a hard R that we're talking about?
That's good.
Well, no, how about Hardy? What's the double E at the end? Flip that around too. You got a 33 in there.
Yeah.
Hardy with 2 E's, it's 33. Now, all this could be a stretch, right? But then you have the color scheme. It's always white and red, white and orange, red and yellow. It's always Freemasonic or Templar. Then you have the numerology too. Hardee's, they have a Lone Star, I believe, is also. So you either always have a Lone Star in the logo or a circle in the logo, or some kind of chopped up version of that.
And Florida was the first Lone Star state, by the way. The Republic of West Florida.
Yeah. Now Hardee's, you know what's crazy? They say on their website, it's on Wikipedia, it's on their website, this is just too much. They say that Hardee's was started because they took out a $311 loan. Okay? And then, so first they saved up $311. And then they took out a loan that was equivalent to $311 in today's money. So you have $311 and then another $311. And I'm not just making this up. It's in their Wikipedia. They say $311. That's the lore of Hardee's. Yeah, we started on that. It's, it's like intercompany lingo, like $311. We all know how it got started, folks. Come on. Well, what does 311 mean? It's the KKK. It's the same thing. 3 times 11.
Yeah.
3 times 11. It's the KKK, and it's 3 times 11 is 33.
Yeah.
K is the 11th letter of the alphabet. It's every
Wow.
single fast food. Every single one.
Absolutely. Wow. This has been quite a ride, Dr. Longo. Quite a ride. We have to do this again.
I'd love to do it again. You guys will have to forgive me. I'm bad at getting to the point. I speak very laterally.
And then you have somebody like me bringing up rabbit trails. So you're fully forgiven. They're used to it. They're used to it.
Well, I'd love to do it again sometime soon. But let's pick a topic.
Okay.
And I'll prepare a little bit on one specific.
Let's do Giants in
topic.
Florida. How's that sound?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Sure.
I would love to hear that. I would love to hear that. Oh my gosh, here's another one. Serious Shirley off the McDonald's website. Our secret ingredient is our people.
No way. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Dr. Longo, thanks so much, man. This was great stuff. If I ever go back to Florida, I'll come by your bookstore. And I understand that Mr. Saxer works at this same bicycle shop in Tarpon Springs still.
I don't know if he's working there right now.
Oh, okay.
I think he's doing other. He's like a foreman on a work site sometimes too.
Okay.
That's what he does. But he does a couple jobs. I don't think he's at the bike shop right now.
Okay.
I talked to him on the phone a couple days ago, and he said he's not working there right now.
Gotcha.
But for a long time, he did, like 20 years or something.
If you want an interesting study, look up the Saxer stones, and I'm sure you can find that on Old World, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
I'd also love to come on, and if you want to have some fun and maybe debate Christianity or
well, I was gonna say that
like
when you're talking about the vampire, always has to be invited in. I was gonna throw out there that so does Jesus, but I didn't want to go there.
No, that's okay. I can handle it. It's okay.
We could do that. That would be awesome. That'd be fantastic.
Because I wasn't too familiar with your stuff when you reached out.
Mm-hmm.
To shamefully admit, I should have. Your content's totally up my alley. I don't know how I didn't find it earlier, but I was watching.
We used to have about 63,000 subscribers like you. Then I got adios by YouTube, so it's very hard to find me now. So don't feel bad.
Yeah, I'm not active on Twitter as much, but now I got you, and I'm very glad. And I went through some of your older stuff, and I really liked your videos. And I think a lot of your criticisms of Christianity are fair, and again, you probably know a lot more about this than me. You've had a lot of experience with the Bible, but I would like to contend some points.
Let's do it.
If you ever want to.
I would love to. If you knew my audience, I've been longing for somebody that could come on and have a rational, reasonable, scholarly, friendly back and forth without calling each other names and all of that crap. So I would love to do it. Love to do it.
Well, name calling's good, and
I mean a little bit of that.
Bully is the art of guru. You know that?
I did not, but it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, gurus are bullies. So, but whatever.
Right, man.
I think I have some common ground with you, with like the pagan. It seemed, I don't know if that's your background, but it seems like you leaned into that since
I was 25 years a minister, Assemblies of God minister, full-time for 20 years, part-time for 5 years. And then I went into what I called New Covenant Kabbalah. It's like, oh, Jesus was teaching Kabbalah. So that's really the secret sauce. And then I did the same thing you did, Paul, Jesus, different teachings. So I was just Jesus only. And then I got to where I am now. So we'd have a lot to talk about. And now I would call myself deist, heathen, somewhere along there, but still very much believing in the divine and, nowhere near an atheist. So we'll talk Giants. We'll have a great friendly debate, but still could get heated, and that's all right. We're both
that's okay.
Big boys. Let's do it, man. I'd love to do it.
I'd love to reconcile some of that because I think that's one of my specialties.
Let's do it. I'm
Is
excited.
like ancient fertility worship and folk traditions and Christianity. My angle at this would be, which I'd like to hear what you have to, where we could go from that, but is that instead of saying Judeo-Christian, we have to say Judeo-pagan. And that
Ooh.
Christianity is the radical position, is the radical deviation from what I believe to be the Judeo-pagan paradigm, which is the blood sacrifice system. Jesus did not liberate the Jews from the Jews. He liberated humanity from the foolish trap, the debt, the blood debt that was animal sacrifice. Jesus didn't just liberate the Jews from animal sacrifice. He liberated the world. And Jesus dying for your sins, it's not that his death wipes your sins clean. Jesus' death put an end to not just animal sacrifice, but the fallacy, the futility that sacrificing animals does anything to your sins. That was the scam. Jesus saved the world from getting scammed. They were getting scammed. You had to travel hundreds of miles sometimes to go to the temple at Jerusalem to pay for a spotless lamb. You had to pay for your sin offering. They slaughtered it for you and they said, okay, yeah, you're good. See you in another year.
Yeah.
See you in another year. You could never pay the debt off. You see where this game was coming from? How they
I see your point.
Jesus put an end to the sacrificial system. That's why they hate him. That's why his name has been cursed ever since. That's why he is persona non grata. That's why. And I don't think most Christians grasp this. Most of them are running with the Pauline Christianity. Oh, the world's going to end tomorrow. Time to believe in Jesus or else.
Yeah.
That's not Christianity. And like you said, I think you might know where I'm at in my stage. Like I am at the Paul.
I've been there.
James.
Yes.
Have you dove into James, the brother of Jesus much?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm all onto right now. So.
Cool. And in a little preview, it's interesting to assert that Jesus did away with the sacrificial system by becoming a blood sacrifice and requiring a often communion, Eucharist, whatever. So we're going to have some fun, Dr. Longo. This is going to be great stuff.
Sure.
Love it. I love your attitude. I love your heart is for truth. So's mine. So you know what? I am not above having my mind changed if I'm presented with facts. I think you're the same kind of guy. So this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I agree, man. Were you a Gemini?
Yes, I am a Gemini, May 23rd.
I think I heard you say your birthday, but that's cool. I'm a Sagittarius. November 23rd. I think we're right. I think we are actually right across from each other.
We are. That will make for an interesting discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Longo, Old World, Florida. Go subscribe right now. Thanks so much for being here. Can't wait to do it again. We'll be in touch.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it, man.
Take care, my friend. Take care. That, folks, was fun. Some of you said the best show that we've ever done. I can't argue with you. That was really, really, really good stuff. It was really, really fun stuff. And the pink was for Dr. Longo. We'll be back to the regular. Maybe I'll change it up. I know I usually go blue, but it gives me a nice little pink sheen in the gray hair. So love you all for being here. This guy, Jeff, from 15 years ago. Kind of. Yeah. Kind of. So we're going to have a great time. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about. And, I love you. We've been on here a long time. It's been a lot of fun, but I do got to run. Tomorrow's Sunday. I do have a Not Your Normal Sunday ready for you. It'll be a good one. So, the drill. We got to remember who we are. We've got to remember who we are. And who we are, this. We're the last generation of real humans. We're divine. We're sovereign. We're free. We don't have a rich The world's going to be better than it's ever been, sooner than we can imagine, because we've realized who we are. I salute you for being here seeking after truth. Go right now, subscribe to Old World Florida. Subscribe here too. See you tomorrow. Love you very much. Take care.